My name is Liza Stepanova. I'm a pianist. I was born in Belarus, and then I studied in Germany and lived in Germany for a while, and then I moved to New York, and I was in New York for 11 years. I finished all my graduate studies at Juilliard, and now I live primarily in Athens, Georgia, where I'm a faculty member at the University of Georgia.
Tones and Colors. I mean, that's an evocative title, but it sort of says it all for this whole recording. The idea of pairing paintings with the music, but you also take it kind of a step further and explore some music that may not be familiar to a lot of our listeners, yet has really intricate associations with specific pieces of art. And I wonder if you can tell us how you came up with this concept to begin with.
Yes, so it all evolved over a number of years. There's always been something very inspiring to me about art. So I've been playing music since I was 4, but I started going to museums probably around the same time with my parents. So I love going to museums and looking at art and letting that world sort of envelop me as well. And then I played some of the pieces that people probably think of first when they think music and visual art. I have played pictures at an exhibition a lot, and then there are also some chamber works. Like there's this wonderful Poulenc song cycle that's called Work of a Painter, where each song is dedicated to a different 20th century French painter. And then at some point I had a chamber music group in New York, and it happened to be Debussy year, 2012, and 150th anniversary, and we wanted to produce a concert that would commemorate Debussy in a kind of a special way. And Debussy had a particular affinity with visual art, so I came up with this program that paired works that he had written during his life, from the very beginning, sort of kind of these romantic, impressionistic works, sort of the darker works of the war with paintings. And we had the paintings projected at that concert, and that was one of the first times that I saw that connection in immediate action on stage. And there was something quite powerful to me to be able to tell a story through these visual and musical associations and kind of to immerse the audience into Debussy's life. So that was another important step. And then I went to Germany to research Mendelssohn works and found out about this wonderful, impressive 1-hour cycle by Mendelssohn's sister about the months of the year called The Year. And she had obviously a very close, wonderful relationship with her husband, who happened to be a painter. And as a gift to her, he illustrated every movement in that manuscript with vignettes, with beautiful, colorful vignettes for every month of the year. So that manuscript was kind of a work of art all in itself. And that piece also made it on the CD, and the Debussy piece made it on the CD. And then I thought, okay, so how far can we go? How broad can this selection be? How far back can we go? The first piece, apparently that was directly based on a painting, is from the 19th century. It's a Liszt piece, but I wanted to go further back. So then I reached to Bach and thought, okay, so who was inspired by Bach? And then I looked, okay, at the end of the 20th century, who are the composers who are still exploring these combinations in unusual ways? And then there is Crumb and there is Ligeti. And actually, now that this CD is almost out, I found even newer pieces. I'm now playing a work from 2012. So this project continues.
Yeah. One of the things that I admire about this recording is the way that you have grouped the different pieces together, and you found wonderful ways that relate both to art and to music of putting composers together that you may not hear them together, say, on a recital program outside of that, like Fanny Hensel and Claude Debussy. Rarely would you associate those two composers with each other, but you've tied a string between the two with nature and impressionism. The same way that if you're in an art gallery, you might see, different paintings that fall under that larger rubric, but you wouldn't necessarily associate those painters with each other. Was that a conscious thing on your part? You wanted to try to create a lot of contrast with these different works?
Yes, absolutely. So contrast is one thing. Another thing is that I'm fascinated by themes. Some of my favorite exhibitions when I go to museums, they trace a theme throughout the ages. And for example, if you take the Fanny Mendelssohn and the Debussy, both of them are about water. The Fanny Mendelssohn piece is called September at the River, and if you look at the vignette, which is in the booklet to the CD, you can see a young woman sitting at the river, and you can see the waves of the river, and they transition smoothly into the score, which has fast notes that are sort of like waves and patterns in the right hand when the piece starts. And the Debussy piece is called Goldfish. It's based on the Japanese print, which he had at his house. And the whole piece is basically just an exploration. How can we describe water with pianistic means? What other beautiful musical patterns can we come up with to portray the play of water? So those two go really well together if you think about the theme rather than perhaps the style.
Yeah. Well, and you also have the butterflies in there, the Boslav Martinu, which is between those two in that little group.
Yes.
And the way that you talk about the water, it makes me think of the fluttering through the air of the butterflies as well.
Yes.
That you can hear in the music.
Absolutely. That piece is very, very descriptive. It starts in a very high register, so it really has air right from the start.
Yeah. Now, you begin with 3 works that are gathered under the title of A Spanish Room. I wonder if you can talk just a little bit about the paintings that you've associated with these 3 composers, Granados, Sohana, and Turina.
Yes. So the Spanish, the relationship between art and music in Spain seems to be a very special one. It seems that sort of national art, visual art, developed earlier in Spain than national classical music. So the painters generally in that group are older than the composers who refer to them. And the composers, some of them are, first, second, third generation of classical composers trying to find a true Spanish language in their music. And they look back to this golden age, of Goya and Velázquez, and they're inspired by it. And it's a kind of a wonderful homage from the musicians to the artists.
One thing I have to say is this is a recording that you just can't do without the program book, because the paintings in here just really jump off the page. It's nice to see those as well.
Yes, it was. It was. I really loved putting that booklet together. That was a big part of the process. I mean, normally booklet would, contain some program notes, maybe my bio, but in this case it was really important to me that all the art made it in there.
Yeah. Now, you perform these works in live stage settings, right? Now, do you project the paintings while you're performing the music?
Yes. I've done this now a couple of times. It is important, especially with some of the art that is newer, to respect the copyright of the artist.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's easier to use paintings, and sometimes one needs to ask permission. It's also, nowadays in the digital age, many of these paintings are available on the museum's websites. Mm-hmm. So I put together some of those links on my own website so people can go there and follow and look at the paintings online, which would be even larger perhaps than in the booklet as they're listening. And it's also a nice way, to direct people to museums, I think.
Tell us the website where you have those links.
That would be my own website, actually. So under liza-stepanova.com, I have a page that's called Tones and Colors, and there are some program notes on the CD and also the links to the museum websites.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the conversations across time, because it's a remarkable juxtaposition of composers that you have here, beginning with Bach and his Prelude and Fugue, and moving through George Crumb, and ending up with a composer that I didn't know, but I guess he's best known as a painter, right? Lionel Feininger?
Yes, very much known as a painter, an outstanding 20th century painter. I I'm very fascinated by his story in particular, because apparently he was given Bach's Art of Fugue, the score, as a gift by a friend. And I think he grew up in a somewhat musical family. I believe that maybe his father played violin. So he was a musical person, but he was, of course, a professional painter. But once he saw that score and the intricacy of the polyphonic writing, he was so fascinated by it that he wanted to write his own fugues, and he wanted to learn how to write fugues. Now, for those people who don't necessarily imagine something specific under fugue, that's just one of the most complex ways in which you can write a musical composition, because there are multiple independent voices that have to come together in meaningful ways. So it took him several years to do it, but he came up with this absolutely stunning, complex fugue in the difficult key of E flat minor, and it's just very impressive to me. I always, I think I was born with, I do use my hands to play, but in terms of painting, I really couldn't, even if I tried, I couldn't produce anything near that quality.
Yeah. Well, the fugue in E flat minor, I mean, it makes sense to pair that, of course, with the Bach pieces, also in E flat minor. But where did you come up with George Crumb as sort of like a bridge between the two?
Yes, so George Crumb has this wonderful work called Little Suite for Christmas, and two of the movements in there are based on frescoes by Giotto that are in a church in Italy, and this particular movement is one of them. And as it happens, I haven't talked to Mr. Crumb, and I don't know, but actually the opening line of that is also sort of in E flat minor, except that it starts right away with what we call an extended technique, where you use your hand to mute the strings of the piano, and you play on the keys as you do that, and then the sound that's produced doesn't really quite sound like piano at all. So it was a wonderful both connection and contrast, I thought, with the Bach. I really enjoyed that pairing particularly. Yeah,
and it has almost a Far Eastern quality to the music too, which fits with the Magi very well.
Yes, very much so. Crumb took inspiration from a lot of different places and different artists and different styles. And one of his, I think, I think he's a modern genius. And one of his strengths is to seamlessly integrate it all together. So in a way, he's a role model.
Yeah. Then you bring it together with Wagner, Infinity, and an encore. I mean, that describes each of the three pieces.
That's right.
At the end. How do those... where are you going with that? Wagner, Infinity, and an encore? Are those three separate things, or do they kind of like relate to each other?
Well, it's sort of happened that the other sets were all kind of threes, and then the last pieces found their way on the CD because they had to be there, and then I wanted to put them into a set. They had to be there for different reasons. So the Wagner is one of my favorite pieces. It's just an awe-inspiring work. It was so shocking and influential, and so many artists were really stunned by it when it premiered in Paris, and there are responses by writers and painters, and so that was a real milestone. And the Liszt transcription is just so much fun to play. It's you really feel like you're conducting an orchestra. So that piece had to be there. The Ligeti I love because it's so witty. The piece is based on this huge outdoor sculpture in Romania. It's called Infinite Column, and it's a pattern that goes up, and the sculpture is so tall that many days it reaches the sky and beyond, so you can't quite see the end of it. So Ligeti finds a way to start the piece sort of in the low register of the piano, and he keeps sort of rewinding it, and it slowly moves up and up and up and up and up and up, and then it hits the very edge. It's quite actually, even the performance of that piece is quite visual because it hits the edge of the piano. And the idea is that perhaps it continues, you just can't hear it, or the piano doesn't reach far enough. So I loved having that there. It's just it's bold, similar. Its similarity to the Wagner is just how bold it is. And then it was kind of nice, because the CD is kind of like a recital program, and I don't know if people have time to sit down and listen to it like a recital. I think that could be quite enjoyable. And recitals usually have an encore.
Yeah.
So there's this really charming Godowski piece that ends it all. So.
Yeah. No, that's nice. I'm just looking at a picture that you have in the program book of that infinite column, which is quite impressive.
Very, yes. I've never seen it live because I haven't been to Romania, but there are many sort of tourist pictures online that one can see, and it's really spectacular.
Well, we can live vicariously through the music.
Right.
Least.
Yes.
I mean, even without seeing a lot of these paintings, we can get an interesting taste of what it might feel like to be in the gallery with them. This whole recording is sort of a tour through an art gallery of your own making, which is nice.
I'm so glad you see it that way. Yes, that was very much my idea.
Tones and Colors is the name of the CD. That title, incidentally, Tones and Colors can apply either to music or to art. They're words that are used interchangeably in both of those pursuits. But the CD is coming out this month, January 19th, and it is from the pianist Liza Stepanova. I'll put a link to her website at our website. That's at wgte.org. And Liza, congratulations on this wonderful new CD. We look forward to the second installment. I know you said you have a few pieces already picked out.
Yes, very much. I mean, this has been so much fun. I hope to continue this project.
Yeah.
And people are writing pieces, so it's possible to continue this project infinitely.
Yeah, that'll be great. Well, congratulations. Thanks for joining us here on FM 91.
Thanks so much for talking to me, Brett. It's a pleasure.